Babies were born. One was born a little over 10 miles west of Waukomis, that was me, and the other one was born 10 miles east of Waukomis, that was Richard. Now, I was born on a farm near Ames, Oklahoma, and he was born on a farm not far from here. To save you doing the math, I want each of you to know that we will be turning 88 this year, both of us. And this year we will also have been married 68 years. Yes, we were 20 when we were married, and for any of you young people thinking about getting married, I want you to know that 20 is too young. I was delivered by the Drummond country doctor. His name was Dr. Harris, and he received 2 dozen eggs, a gallon of milk, and 2 chickens as his payment for delivering me. Now, Richard had a neighbor who was a midwife, and she helped with his birth. But we were each in the 3rd generation of our families to be born in Garfield County. My father was a sharecropper, and we moved to the Drummond area when I was probably 5 years old. And the summer before my sophomore year in high school, we moved to Waukomis. Now, it was hard to leave all my friends in the Drummond schools, but was I eager to move? Oh, yes. Do you want to know why? Because we would have our first indoor bathroom, as primitive as it was. I was concerned about the move. Would I be accepted? Would my feed-sack dresses be ridiculed? Would the holes in my shoes be noticed? Would we have enough money for school supplies? Because you see, back then, Waukomis was a thriving community. I heard there were a lot of well-to-do people living there. There were 44 businesses, 4 car dealerships, and 2 grocery stores. But there was also a Waukomis study club. Vera Taylor was the president, and she lived in a beautiful new home at the corner of Wood Road and the road that goes past the cemetery. It was a lovely home, brand new. Her daughter, Charlene, was our friend in school. Now, 1 year after moving to Waukomis, I received a letter in our country mailbox, and it said, "You have been chosen by the Waukomis Study Club to represent our community at Girls State." My hands literally trembled as I read the letter to my mother. Me, a poor girl who had transferred from Drummond, chosen to represent the Waukomis community only after 1 year of attending school here. It was unbelievable to me. I knew very little about Girls State, but I did know it was a real honor to be chosen. But I was very concerned about my wardrobe. Would my simple clothing be good enough? Would I be judged? Shortly after that, I saw the most beautiful dress in the window of Newman's department store. Do any of you remember Newman's? I loved that dress, but certainly couldn't afford it. I never had a true true store-bought dress before. In fact, I've never had a dress made from store-bought fabric. My parents managed to put together enough money to buy fabric that matched that dress. And being the great seamstress that my mom was, she copied the dress. And then I was ready to go learn about state government at Girls State. Well, guess what? I was elected mayor of my town. I ran for Secretary of State and won, believe it or not. And when they announced the delegates to Girls Nation, I was the first alternate delegate. Now, no legs were broken, no one got sick, so I didn't get to go. But let me tell you, being named the first alternate delegate was really big for me. When they selected the junior counselors for the following year, I was chosen. So I got to experience Girls State 2 years in a row. This was a turning point in my life. I left Girls State a changed person. You see, when you grow up in poverty, you have crazy and confused ideas about money, about yourself, and about your life. Because you think you're not good enough, you think you're not smart enough, and you think you won't be accepted because you have nothing. And oh, the fear of being judged. Now, we all know that those are simply lies from Satan. But I left Girls State with confidence. Confidence that perhaps when I grew up, I could make something of myself. I could be accepted for who I was and not how much money my dad had. Now, this is only one life-changing event that occurred because I moved to Waukomis. About 40 years later, Richard and I were driving into Waukomis. We were reminiscing about how we loved this little town, what it had done for our lives, how it had changed our lives. We were driving in to see his mom and dad and his Uncle Gilbert and Aunt Helen. And I said to Richard, nonchalantly, if I were rich like Warren Buffett, I would make the downtown beautiful. He really laughed at me because we barely had the money to buy gas to come see his parents. Years after that, he came home from Waukomis telling me he had an opportunity to purchase part of a block of the downtown. When I asked what he would do with it, he replied, well, I would have to tear down those old beloved buildings, as the engineers had declared them very unsafe. I would probably mow the grass and make it tidy and clean. Well, I laughed at him, and the rest is history. More years passed, and I served as CEO of our company, and our company was greatly blessed. And after I replaced myself as CEO, we moved back from Austin to Oklahoma City and began to invest in charities and ministries in the Oklahoma City area. And then we began to feel that God was calling us to invest in this beautiful little town that made such a difference in our lives. We wanted to thank the town for all the goodness it had given to us. evening, Richard came back from Waukomis. He had purchased the block downtown and had begun working on the project. And he said to me, I think I should buy new uniforms for our little football boys in junior high and in high school. And I said, well, Richard, you do know, don't you, that the kids are really struggling in football. They had difficulty winning games. And he looked at me and he said, well then, you know what? They'll just look great when they lose. The interesting thing about that was they began winning the next year. Last year they went to state and they were awesome this year. Well then I began to notice that when the wind blew at a heavy pace, the little building or the little room on top of the stadium would weave back and forth, and it scared me to pieces because I was so concerned that somebody might be killed if that blew off, and it very well could have if the wind was strong enough. So you see, we began to realize there were a lot of people in Oklahoma City who could take care of Oklahoma City. Why were we investing in Oklahoma City when it was Waukomis where our lives were changed? Because you see, as he read the scripture, to whom much has been given, much is required. So I'm just here today to say thank you. You may be related to one of the Waukomis Study Club members that voted for a struggling poor kid from Drummond. And if you are, I thank God for your relative. I thank Reverend Sheldon Sheets, who was pastor at the Christian church. Even though I believe he's gone, I think he's passed. But he married us in our little Salem church in Drummond, Oklahoma. We thank Pastor Hoppy from the Christian church because he took Richard's dad under his wings. And we think there's a strong possibility he shared the gospel with him. And on the day that Richard's dad was killed in that tragic accident with his tractor, we understand that he was full of joy that day. We're so grateful to Pastor Dave for mentoring and encouraging James Baker. Because look at our young people in our church right here who've been affected or moved or encouraged by James Baker. How grateful we are that when Richard talked to John and Grace about the possibility of moving to Waukomis, I had said, they'll never move to Waukomis, Richard. Why are you even asking them? And look who we have as our pastor and his wife. I'm so proud of the women in both churches who led summer Bible school together. What an example you are to the rest of the world. And I so appreciate those of you, both in the church and in the high school, who worked in the little shops downtown, who spend your time helping to make Waukomis Welcomes Christmas a reality. You work in the Sooner celebration. You work in the different different market things that we have here from time to time. And oh, do I especially thank you for some of the little notes that we've received thanking us for the scholarships and some of the other projects we've done. Because let me tell you, in the midst of some negativity, that encouragement has kept us going. Oh, what this little town can become. Scripture tells us where there is no vision, the people perish. And my vision is that this little town becomes a destination. A destination for people to stop in and maybe transact business in our little businesses we have here. But can't you just see a great big billboard on Highway 81 that has Waukomis with a big arrow pointing toward the entry of our town that says, great schools, great teachers, great sports teams, great churches, great community support. Yeah, I heard how full that gymnasium was recently when you were there for those basketball games. And great families. What if Waukomis became the most hospitable community in Oklahoma? What if we go ahead and build a little stadium for our competitors, a place for them to sit when they come to play football here, and then our little cheer team or little, whatever they're called, the girls, the cheer people, what if they delivered free Cokes to every single competitor sitting in those stands? Now we know that a secret Santa would pay for those. And we also know that the competitors are going to love us when they come, because where have they ever had the competition give them a free Coke? Now they'll probably hate us when they leave because we'll beat them. But we don't care. We'll love them anyway. Wouldn't it be amazing if we became, you can't believe what these Waukomis people do when we come to play ball there. We could even maybe sort of do it at basketball games. I want you to begin to think about your vision for this little town, because it might be something that we can help you make happen. What is your vision for our little town that has changed so many lives, especially ours? What role will this very church play in its destiny? What if we encouraged our young people who graduate from our high school to give back, if they're financially capable, but to give back their time if they can't give back financially, because time is as valuable as money? Wouldn't it be amazing if every graduate, or if 20% of the graduates were encouraged to do that in some way? I believe with all of my heart, the hand of God is on this town. And because of the churches, and because of the revival of the young people in our town, our little town will achieve its destiny. So will you dream? Will you understand the vision that you have for this very, very special, special place? And now may I leave you with a blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rain fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the very palm